Welcome back to the second half of All About Money. I'm Chloe Feng. With us today is Lucy Gazmararian, the founder and managing partner of Hong Kong-based Token Bay Capital. We'll dive more into the digital asset market. Thank you for speaking with us, Lucy. So earlier we have talked about the new government's stance towards the virtual asset industry, and now I also want to discuss more about this industry, the technology itself, because there are still many myths, confusions, and risks surrounding it. Asking on behalf of our viewers, I'm thinking, can you briefly talk about your interpretation, the simplest interpretation about the technology, or let's say the main component of the virtual asset industry, which are the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and tokens. So what are they, and what are the correlations between them?
So you're right, this is incredibly important, groundbreaking technology. And at the core is a blockchain. And the blockchain really acts as a distributed ledger, which creates new infrastructure for us to build products and services on top of. And because it is a decentralized structure, and everybody around the world has access to it and can view transactions in real time on the blockchain, it makes transactions and business operations potentially incredibly transparent and able to run 24/7 with no need to cross different jurisdictions. It's a global borderless platform. So if we use that as the core infrastructure, and then we think about what we can build on top of this infrastructure. And the explosive growth, as you say, that we've had is in many different areas. So it can be in finance through what we call decentralized finance. It can be through creating tokens of art or metaverse objects, as increasingly we live our social lives online. It can also be our existing money. So the existing fiat money or Hong Kong dollars, that money can also move to this new infrastructure on the blockchain. And when you have all these different assets that are trading as tokens on this shared infrastructure, you gain hyper efficiency in terms of the way this value moves around the world, is traded from person to person, and creates new global marketplaces. And then this technology will also enable us to tokenize new things, new sources of value. For example, intellectual property, brand identity, copyright, patents, even our own DNA can become something that is recorded on a blockchain and traded on a blockchain. So it's really unlocking value and unlocking access to global assets and the global financial system to the entire world.
Right. And now, the Monetary Authority of Singapore Chief FinTech Officer recently also said something in an interview which kind of impressed me as well about the reason why Singapore is taking a more cautious approach toward retail trading, because they want the public to also, like you just mentioned, to understand these new technologies and also the assets, to understand the values of them, and also to shift the sentiment from the speculation, which creates, the ups and downs in terms of the prices, to the real usage, and also to let investors understand more about the intents. For example, why they're holding the cryptocurrencies and what can really do about these new forms of money. So, what do you make of his statement? And can you also help us to understand the intent? For example, after we have this cryptocurrency, what can we really do about this?
So I think he makes very valid observations on the industry. As it is currently today, anybody around the world can launch a token. And if they get some kind of community online, then they can have people buy into that token. And this token may promise to give access to products and services that they're going to build in the future, but many times it can just be a scam. With any new technology and any ability for founders or individuals or bad actors in the world to have people part with their money and transfer over funds, there's a risk of scams there. And that applies to every industry. This is not specific to crypto. This happens in traditional finance. This happens from door-to-door salesmen, right? We have this issue in society, but crypto is a very effective mechanism through which scams can occur. So it is very important that you understand who is issuing the token. What is the roadmap? What are they building? Is it a legitimate startup idea? Because raising capital through tokens is just one way to raise capital. We have existing companies raise capital in the traditional sense, but they'll often do it through equity rounds. So raising capital through a token is just a different mechanism, but you're still raising capital to bootstrap an idea or a project. So we need to really understand the teams. We need to have checks in place that the team cannot just run away with the money. And also, these projects and these tokens are built on code. So they need to be tried and tested that the software runs as intended, because otherwise funds can be siphoned off into different wallets and it's very high risk of losing funds. So the operational risk by investing in smart contract-based assets, which is assets that are built from code, is very high. So that education, the risk disclosures, the accountability for any teams that are launching tokens, these are all important things that the industry is already doing unofficially, but we need to move to have it within a regulatory framework so that if people do not uphold those rules, there is the possibility for them to go to jail. We need that legal recourse.
Right. And also, Lucy, on CBDCs, mainland China has already rolled out its digital yuan, and now Hong Kong government is also pioneering to launch its e-Hong Kong dollar. But some people are also confused about what are the differences between these kind of like CBDCs and the money that we have on our digital payment platforms such as PayMe or WeChat. So what are the differences between these kind of like CBDCs and the money that we have already seen on our payment platforms?
So actually, money and digital money today is pretty efficient, as you say, with PayMe. But when that money is transferred and you move it from wallet to wallet, the money actually isn't moving itself during that transaction. It's just debiting or crediting different accounts behind the scene, and different banks will be working to then reconcile those transactions on a T+2, T+3 basis. The big difference with digital money on a blockchain is that money, when you send it to a wallet, that money has traveled in that moment to a wallet, so it settles immediately. There is no reconciliation that needs to be done between banks on the back end. The money itself has actually moved to the digital wallet. Right. So it's increasingly efficient, and actually harnessed in the right way, it's a much more secure way to move value around the world, because you're trusting in the blockchain infrastructure as the sort of open bank of the world, if you like, rather than different financial intermediaries and hoping that they're going to do the right things with their balance sheet and financial statements.
Yeah, by that we can improve the efficiency as we hoped. But also, in terms of the adoption of this kind of digital or virtual assets, Hong Kong's adoption is still pretty low compared with other regions, for example, Australia, Singapore, Saudi Arabia, South Korea. So I'm thinking, other than the current policy announcement on the development of virtual assets, what else do you think that the government should consider or prioritize in order to also improve the adoption of these virtual assets as well in the SAR?
So actually, Hong Kong is considering the size of Hong Kong and the size of the population, we are actually very crypto ready. So we recently came out in a global survey for 2022, where Hong Kong was the most crypto ready jurisdiction in the world, above the US and Switzerland. So Hong Kong has a long history with this technology, with virtual assets. And I would say there is very widespread acknowledgement and not understanding so much, but certainly a familiarity with the technology over and above other countries around the world. And that is why the regulators have been first movers, because the recognition and understanding of crypto and the desire to interact with these new cryptocurrencies is so high in Hong Kong, has made it very urgent for the regulators to put proper regulatory regime and framework in place to protect investors. So I would say, given the size of Hong Kong, we are actually very well known as a crypto jurisdiction around the world.
Right. So probably, the adoption could improve as time goes on now with the new framework, right?
And, it depends how you define adoption. I think everyone needs to have an understanding of how many different aspects to this technology there is. You can have money on a blockchain, you can have stocks and bonds, and in time, real estate be tokenized on a blockchain, so real world assets. You have the new cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Bitcoin that are on a blockchain. And then you have art and digital collectibles that are on a blockchain, as well as fiat money, so the CBDCs that we're seeing, the digital yuan and the e-Hong Kong dollar on a blockchain. So all of these cryptos are different types of assets that are trading on a blockchain. They're all very different. And so in terms of adoption, it depends which vertical you're looking at. Hong Kong is very much positioning itself to be a virtual asset center for real world assets that are also moving to a blockchain. So tokenized stocks, tokenized bonds, tokenized real estate.
Stablecoins.
And stablecoins. And this understanding that digital property rights can be enshrined in a token and traded on a token. So the whole landscape for this technology is very wide-ranging. It is not just about new startup crypto projects. It is actually impacting real-world use cases that exist today, including art, culture, and entertainment, specifically as we also have the metaverse as a new forum within which we communicate with each other and we conduct business with each other. As the internet also changed culture, the metaverse will change culture too. So it's an enormous space. And when you talk about adoption, you need to be clear about which part of the blockchain and crypto universe you're talking about.
Well, that's a wrap for today. Thank you very much for your time. That's Lucy Gazmararian, the founder of Token Bay Capital. We'll be back next Sunday night. Until the next time, please take care.